Welcome to our exclusive second act night shift mini-series, specially designed for those who are experiencing challenges in their nightly rest routine. We've partnered with night skincare experts Estée Lauder, whose iconic collection, Advanced Night Repair, is designed to support the skin's natural nightly renewal rhythm, harnessing over 40 years of pioneering night science research and repairing the look of sleep-deprived skin. We're talking to some of the UK's leading sleep experts, giving real insight into how to combat the effects of midlife changes to our sleep. Our expert guest for today's episode is Kathryn Pinkham, who founded one of the first in-person insomnia clinics, helping reduce people's reliance on sleeping medication while achieving significant lasting improvements in their sleep. Kathryn, welcome to the Night Shift.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here today. Midlife sleep is a very hot topic in our second act community, and you run an insomnia clinic, so you are the person we need to talk to.
Yes.
I think, personally, myself and my friends, I know there's lots of different problems people have with sleep. Some people can't drop off. Some people wake up in the middle of the night. Some people wake up very early in the morning in midlife. But perhaps you could tell me, first of all, what are the most common problems that people come to you with?
Yeah, all of the ones that you describe. I would say for women in midlife, because of hot flushes and the anxiety and the changes that come with menopause, the 3 a.m. awakening is probably the biggest issue that women come with. So they might nod off okay, suddenly they're wide awake in the middle of the night and they can't get back to sleep. That tends to be the biggest issue. And that's something called sleep maintenance insomnia. So we can't maintain the sleep. We can fall asleep okay, but we can't maintain it through to the morning.
And then what about, how does that differ from people who are waking up full of, this is me, waking up full of thoughts and worries at like 5 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, I really just want 2 more hours.
So it's a similar problem, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, early morning awakening. Rather than just looking at what we can do in that moment, what we tend to need to look at is actually the 24-hour cycle. So if you're somebody who wakes in the middle of the night, there's a few things going on. The first one is that your body clock is in a pattern now of waking at 3 a.m. So you might find that you always wake at the same time. So you look at the clock and it's, 2 minutes past 4, and then it's 2 minutes past 4 the next night. And it's exactly on, the same time. And that's because your body clock is a clock. So whatever we repeat, your body will continue to do. So when sleep starts to go wrong, what happens is your body clock shifts into that new pattern. And although it's not the one that you want, as far as your body is concerned, it is the new one because we're doing it every night. So what happens is we go to sleep okay, and in order to sleep well, we have to build up this appetite for sleep, a natural sleep drive. So that drive is built up by time out of bed. It's a pressure to sleep well. So when I wake up in the morning, if I get up nice and early, I build that drive throughout the day. By the time I get to bed, ideally, I'll be really tired, the pressure will be high, and I'll fall straight to sleep. So when we're waking at 3 or 4 in the morning, what's happening is the drive is starting to run out. Maybe it wasn't high enough. My body clock is in a new pattern now where I expect to wake at 3 or 4 because I always do. And then the third thing that's happening is I've developed a connection with anxiety at that time. So if I wake at 3 or 4 a.m. and I start ruminating and I'm worrying about the next day, if I do that for a week, what happens is my body and my mind now associate that time in the 24-hour period with increased vigilance, increased anxiety. So my bed now becomes attached to it. So what happens for women is, let's say you're waking up with a hot flush in the middle of the night. You're hot, you feel panicky, you feel anxious, you start to worry about the next day. You're worried about how you're going to cope, how you're going to feel, whether or not you're ever going to be able to sleep well again. Your body is going to be in a state of fight or flight. So that vigilance really kicks in. So the problem now is we have now related our bed to the very thing that we wouldn't want in our bed. It's not relaxing, it's a wakeful state. So you can see how we get stuck in that pattern. So it might be triggered by menopause, but what keeps it going is actually the pattern that we've now taken on. So our habits and our behaviours and our thoughts are what keep us stuck in that cycle.
That's interesting. So I guess somehow we've got to learn to not get so anxious when this happens. But how do you go about that in the middle of the night when driving you mad?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think the key is we don't deal with it in the middle of the night. We need to preempt it. So if you are struggling with waking up and you know you have a racing mind at that time in the morning, the key thing to do is to spend some time during the day, pen and paper, and you sit down and you spend time focusing on what it is that worries you at that time in the morning. Now, what will probably happen is it won't worry you as much during the day as it does at 3 o'clock in the morning because we're not very rational at 3. Doesn't matter. You're still going to sit down and you're going to write down everything that was worrying you. So whether it was, why can't I get sleep? I'm going to look terrible tomorrow. I'm not going to cope. I'm going to be a bad mother. Whatever it might be that is your trigger. It's really important to write this down because what tends to happen is at nighttime we feel really worried. During the day, we're busy all day. I can distract myself. I can tell myself not to be so silly. It doesn't matter. Just forget about it. The reality is, if something is worrying me, my body needs to make me aware of it. It has to, because I'm designed to survive. So if my body thinks there's something threatening going on, like I can't sleep, it's going to increase my adrenaline and it's going to try and get me to listen. If I won't listen during the day, it'll make me listen at 3 o'clock in the morning. So instead, preempt it. Make time during the day. Write it down. Ask yourself, okay, what does not coping actually look like? What else makes me a good mum? Have I ever really failed at work, or is that just a fear? And this is not about being sort of overly positive to a point where you don't believe it. It's just about starting to notice and be curious as to what the fear is, and is it true? Or could I shift it into a slightly more helpful thought, like, I don't sleep great, but I do normally cope. So if we go through that process during the daytime, it's much easier at nighttime to be able to let these thoughts come and go rather than engaging in them, because you can reassure yourself, I have listened, I'll listen again tomorrow. I've made my plan. If there's something I can do about it, I'll do it. If there's not, I just accept that I'm worried about it. So it's a very therapeutic way of saying to your brain, I'm listening, I just don't want to listen.
It's very interesting, because I think I definitely relate to this. There are things that wake me up in the morning that actually don't even bother me during the day. So then I don't think about them during the day because I've got plenty of other things to worry about. And then go to sleep and I'll be like, oh, I'm thinking about this again. And I have sort of slightly learned that if I do something about whatever it is, a deadline that's maybe 2 months in advance, if I actually just start doing it, then it does stop coming to me. So I think that's action is always a good thing, isn't it? Like, what am I going to do about something?
It's about being proactive with your worries. Everybody worries, and worry is a very normal thing in our, it's a very normal process. And as I say, it's there to keep us safe. It's a way of making sure that you're not going to step into a fire or step in front of the road. So worry is normal, but it's how we manage them. Ignoring them, trying to distract them, it doesn't work. Instead, we need to pay attention to them. We need to listen, just like you would with a friend. You allow them to have their moment, say what it is that's on their mind. And then you can make some decisions about whether it's something that you can action or something you need to just let go of. It's a really therapeutic way of just changing the way that your brain deals with worries. And then at 3 a.m, much, much easier to let it go and get back to sleep. So to your point, during the day, you have to make time to sit and do it, because you won't need to do it in the day. The demand won't be there. But those worries aren't going away. No. They're bubbling away. So make time for them.
And worrying about worrying is another thing, isn't it? Yeah. Like worrying, I remember when I was a little girl and occasionally would get insomnia, and I have no idea why. And my dad would sit with me in bed and say, just lie down and rest. That's what your body needs. It doesn't matter if you don't fall asleep. So sometimes I would, I'm sure I wasn't timing it, but lie there resting for an hour. But then I would be fine the next day. Yes. And that worry about actually not having the sleep can become a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it?
It's the very thing that keeps you awake. And that's the thing about sleep and insomnia, is that if I'm scared of birds or dogs, for example, I could technically go through my whole life avoiding them if I wanted to. But if I'm scared of not being able to sleep, I still have to go and do it every night. I have to try. So exactly to your point, what happens is I go to bed in a state of anxiety about the very thing that I want to not happen. I don't want that to happen. And then I worry about it and it makes it happen. So your dad was exactly right. We have to just take the fear out of it, become okay with being awake, challenge these ideas of, if I don't sleep well, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Yeah. I'm not saying that not sleeping well is ideal or that it's not unpleasant. It is unpleasant, but it isn't life-threatening. So what happens is our body will respond with fight or flight, which is designed to keep us alive, but it's misfiring. We don't need it in that moment. So the way we manage that is we take the pressure off sleep. And we were talking about, there is so much pressure on sleep at the moment from society and in the media. Everybody's got some more hacks about how to sleep and the perfect routine and getting up at 4 a.m. and all of these things. The reality is we don't need all of that to sleep well. And the more pressure we add and the harder we try is why so many people are struggling.
I'm really, really pleased to hear that, because I do feel every time I sort of feel guilty that I'm sleeping badly as well, because I know I was on my phone just before I went to bed and I wasn't drinking chamomile tea and having a, whatever sort of bath I was supposed to have. But my life doesn't allow for that. No. I'm trying to help my kids with their homework and this, that, and the other. And then I fall into bed, but I can't see it would be a dramatic shift in my life to change all of that. Yeah, but you're saying it's not necessary, so I'm pleased to hear that.
No, it's not necessary at all. We are born knowing how to sleep. We don't know for how long or in what time, but we know how. And so sleep will look after itself if we get out of the way. And so a sleep routine for me is, for example, I would clean my teeth, put my pajamas on and read my Kindle for 10 minutes. That's my sleep routine. I don't do anything in the evening on the build up to that to try and make myself sleep. I enjoy chamomile tea, so I might have one. Equally, if I didn't have one, nothing would happen. And if I didn't like the taste of it, I wouldn't drink it. I don't have a bath. I don't like candles. I don't do any of those things. If you enjoy these things, then do them. So I would always encourage people, when you look at your sleep routine, do things that you enjoy because they make you feel happy and relaxed, not because you think they're going to make you sleep. Because as soon as you've put that thought into your own mind of, I wonder if this is going to help me to sleep, it's probably going to go the other way.
Does the opposite thing. Yeah.
And you know, lots of times people will go, it worked last night. I had the perfect routine. I did X, Y, and Z, and I slept perfect. And then the next night it doesn't work. And it's because the very thought that you'd cracked it is the reason why you can't do it, because you've gone to sleep thinking,
our brains
is it going to work?
So complicated, aren't they?
Absolutely. So when it comes to sleep, take the pressure off. You don't need a long routine. You don't have to do anything. There's nothing anyone needs to do to sleep well.
What about sleep trackers? I have a watch and I sort of slept with it on sometimes and hadn't really realised it was even tracking my sleep. And then I started to look at it because I was waking up early in the morning. And the amount of deep sleep I was getting, according to my sleep tracker, was so horrendously low that I spent the next day feeling like I was, death warmed up. And then I realised that actually the best thing for me is not even to know.
Not to track.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think if you're somebody who enjoys the data aspect, you don't really worry much about sleep, it can be useful information. The problem with the tracker is exactly as you say. If you wake up in the morning and you see that you slept badly, and I know that some of them even give you like a readiness for the day score, which could be really low if it's measured you as not sleeping well. That's going to really negatively impact your mindset. It's not good for our mood. You're going to make choices based on it. So you maybe don't go to the gym that day. You maybe cancel some social plans when actually the gym and the social plans were the very things you should have done to make yourself feel better and to forget about sleep, because that's living. Let's enjoy our days. So for me, trackers, they create a lot of anxiety and a lot more vigilance, and they aren't all accurate. We don't know how good they are. They don't all measure the stages of sleep as accurately as people might think they do. So we're not even sure that the data is as accurate as it should be. So my advice is, if you worry about sleep, don't track it. There's no point. It's not going to help you to sleep better. You already know whether you slept well or not. So I would ditch the trackers if you have anxiety around sleep. Then tracking.
It's great. Your advice almost sounds too good to be true, but then I remind myself, because it feels like all the things that I'm worried about that I'm not doing.
Yes.
I can just let go. But maybe it won't work. But you run an insomnia clinic, so I guess it does work.
Yes.
What sort of results do you see?
There are things that you can do, so we will cover those, because I have got some tips. They're just not the tips that you may be trying. But yes, at the Insomnia Clinic, we see people with trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, early morning wakening, sleep anxiety. And CBT for insomnia is a scientifically based program which works on these habits and these behaviours that cause and maintain poor sleep.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how you got here. Everybody can start to improve their sleep. So don't worry if you go, but I slept brilliantly until menopause. That means as long as the menopause is here, I'll never be able to sleep. That's not the case. We do things differently, which keeps the problem going. So to anyone listening who's thinking, well, I've tried everything, what you've probably tried is lots of this sleep hygiene. So lots of things that are aimed at relaxation. And I have no issue with those. I think, of course, if all of us could be less stressed, drink less alcohol, drink less caffeine, make our bedrooms nicer, that's all good. It's not a cure for somebody with a real sleep problem. And I think that's the difference, that we need to make sure we're treating insomnia as a condition with the correct treatment program, not just sort of fluff.
Yes.
Because for people, that's quite damaging to feel like they're trying really hard and it's not working.
And it just gets more and more depressing, I think. Yeah. We're partnering with Estée Lauder's advanced night repair range for this podcast. It's a powerhouse product range for people in midlife and ideal for those looking for harder working products in their skincare routine. It targets 7 skin concerns, including line reduction, skin soothing, firmness, skin tone and strength, hydration and radiance. Things we hear our second act audience talk about a lot. So then I guess that's a perfect time to ask about what can we do? What are the good things?
So these would be my 3 biggest tips. In order to create a stronger sleep drive, so a stronger appetite for sleep, we need to spend less time in bed, which sounds counterintuitive because if we're tired, we want to increase our opportunity for more sleep. But what happens is we're actually spending too much time awake, creating that negative connection. So the first thing you can do is go to bed later and wake up earlier. So if you are in bed for 8 hours, but you probably only sleep for about 6, you can just estimate that, work that out over the last week. If you're only sleeping about 6 hours, shorten your window. Go to bed later. You'll have more melatonin. You've had more time to enjoy your evening, to get a few things done, to have a little bit of time with your partner, maybe a bit more time with your kids, watch something on TV that you want to do. Go to bed later. Your drive to sleep will be higher. So you fall asleep quicker. You go into a deeper sleep and your quality will be increased. Whatever happens, you're going to set your alarm, let's say for 6 in that instance, because you've got a 6-hour sleep window, and you're going to get up at 6. If you consistently stay with that shorter window, what we're doing here is we're using a little bit of the sleep deprivation, but in the right way. So we're staying consistent and we're training your body. We're saying 12 o'clock is bedtime, 6 o'clock is wake. Here are your 6 hours. So quality is much more important than quantity when we're trying to fix the sleep. So first thing, go to bed later, wake up earlier. Second thing is, if you wake in the middle of the night and you feel very stressed and anxious, first thing to do is during the daytime, you're going to make sure you're, as we talked about, you're managing those worries, you're being aware of them, you're doing what you can with them.
Should you write them down at night?
Ideally do it during the day, so you don't need to, but yes, if you're really struggling, your mind is racing, then write them down. Okay. The main thing is leave the bedroom. Don't stay in bed for large periods of time feeling frustrated and hot and bothered, because you're creating that association. So your bed will start to become a cue for those feelings. You'll get into bed feeling relaxed and suddenly feel tense. And that's because your bed is becoming a sort of a battleground as far as your brain is concerned. So if you can't sleep and you're feeling stressed, if you've had hot flushes and you feel anxious, leave the bedroom, go downstairs, do something else, read a book, watch some telly, let yourself off the hook. You don't have to try. And when you feel a bit sleepy, go back to bed, and then it's like resetting the clock.
And that
again.
doesn't like wake you up even more, or
no more so than what you're already doing. And I think that's a common question that people would ask. Now, if you're feeling relaxed, you can stay in bed. You can practice grounding exercises where, what can I smell? What can I hear? What can I see? Notice the thoughts coming and going, but we're going to resist that moment to sort of engage in worries. We're just going to notice them. But if you can't feel relaxed, then leave the room. There's no point staying. You won't get to sleep after feeling worked up, because you're in a state of vigilance then. And fight or flight is designed to keep us alert and alive, not to send us to sleep. So if you're feeling that way, just leave the room. You're battling
against your own body.
Exactly. So go to bed later, wake up earlier. If you're feeling negative towards your bed, then you leave the room. Manage your worries and your stress levels and your lifestyle during the day, because we can't outsleep stress. So if you're feeling exhausted, it's easy to put it down to sleep and sleep quality, but actually no amount of sleep can make you feel refreshed if you're anxious and stressed. So women who are, working 100 miles an hour all day until the moment their head hits that pillow, you're going to feel tired regardless of that sleep quality. So sometimes we need to take a step back and say, actually, what could I do during the day to try and just reduce this sort of adrenaline state that we're in? So it's a 24-hour situation, not just a nighttime one. So managing our stress levels, and a couple of simple things actually that people can change is, when we wake in the middle of the night, the first thing we all do is look at the time, because we have this sort of need to know. The problem with checking the time is, as I was saying at the beginning of the interview, when we check the time, we set that clock. So if I look at it, I've set it, I've sort of rewarded my body and said that was right. 2 minutes past 4, same time tomorrow. So resist checking the time. You're going to go to bed later anyway. You're going to wake up earlier. That's going to compact that sleep and make it less likely that you wake up anyway. But if you do wake up, just resist the temptation to check, because all that checking does is start that negative spiral of, I've not had enough sleep yet. I've not got enough time left. What if I can't get back to sleep? So it's a really simple change that actually anyone can make. And we all do.
I know that this works, because I did this. We had a menopause sleep session at work, and this was the piece of advice that I was given. And I knew I was waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she said to stop. She's like, even if you have to get up to go to the loo, it's fine, but just don't let your brain go into that next level.
Yes.
And it really did make a difference. It's amazing how something's, really small like that's such an instinct can actually really impact things.
It's such a habit, isn't it? We all do it. We just sort of need to know the time. But the reality is we're always going to set an alarm. If the alarm hasn't gone off, then it's not morning time. If you're wide awake and frustrated, we don't want you to be in bed anyway. They're the only rules that we need. So you can see that there are things that we can do to set the foundations for sleep. If our body clock is set correctly, if our drive is nice and high, and if our anxiety around sleep is reduced and that pressure, we've set the perfect foundations there. So whilst things like the chamomile tea and the relaxation and a supplement they're not bad for us, and they can help us maybe manage sleep deprivation better, you can see how they're not tackling the problem. Because if I have a set body clock to wake up at 3, and then I back that up with lots of anxiety around the next day, a chamomile tea at 9 p.m. is never going to help that. It's not, you see, they're not related. So we have to be working on the things that are keeping the problem going. And it's that vigilance, that anxiety around sleep. So try and keep away from, if you're not getting 8 hours, you're going to get Alzheimer's, or we're going to die of some, whatever it is next week.
It's fairly constant, isn't it? When you go down a rabbit hole on social media, you can start to feel like, oh my goodness.
And sleep deprivation, we are designed to cope with some sleep deprivation. Babies wouldn't be born not able to sleep through if we weren't. That would be a real error in in humans. So we are designed to cope with it. And it's not to say we shouldn't prioritize sleep. We should, but we also need to prioritize other things in our life as well. So let's not over focus on sleep, because it won't work anyway. So your dad was exactly right. Just lie there, enjoy it, make friends with being awake. And the reality is you'll probably fall asleep anyway.
Yeah,
but if you're battling to get to sleep, as soon as you're trying, we're in the battle, and it's not going to work.
Out of interest, that this sort of midlife period where lots of this starts to kick in, and really the cause, whether we're feeling a bit more anxious anyway, or all the hormones, is there a sort of peak, and after which it becomes a bit easier again? Or I don't really know many older people who sleep in. Well.
It does tend to show, research does tend to show that the older we get, the less deep sleep and the less time we spend in that deep sleep. That does seem to be the case. And certainly the idea of a lie-in, for a lot of people that seems to happen after children anyway, that we just get conditioned to waking up earlier, and so it changes.
So evil that happens.
At the time where you could be having a lie-in and you can't get one. So when I work with older people, a lot of it is around changing expectations. Yeah. If you used to get 8 hours and now you're only getting 7, you might need to accept that 7 is it. So quality over quantity. If you're getting 7 good hours.
Like those morning hours when the rest of the family are in bed, or sometimes I go out for a walk. It really is a golden part of the morning. Yeah. So when I can sort of just be like, I'm awake and this is actually fantastic. I missed this time. That helps reframe it all a little bit as well. Yeah.
And same with the evenings, sometimes the idea of going to bed later sounds horrifying because you're so tired. But actually, if you can go, it's an hour back that I was going to waste at 4 o'clock in the morning anyway, because I was going to be awake. So I'm taking that hour and I'm putting it somewhere where I can do some food prep for tomorrow. I can call somebody or go out. We don't need to stay in all night to sleep well. We can watch a film. This idea that, you could watch something on TV that would mean you couldn't sleep.
Keep you awake,
unless of course you have a huge phobia of snakes and you watch a snake film, maybe. But outside of that, no, we can adapt. We can watch TV and then we can go to bed. So I think taking the pressure off and that later bedtime, earlier wake time, not only does it improve the quality of your sleep, but it gives you back some time. And you're right, getting up early is actually really good for us. It's good for our mood. It's good for our anxiety and our motivation levels. There's lots of benefits. So expectations, I think, is probably a big one to kind of adjust. So what I would say to women who are struggling is, it is a big trigger, absolutely. And you might find that if you can take HRT, it could get rid of all the symptoms. If your sleep still remains poor, don't panic. It's just because of these reasons. It's because it's a learnt pattern, which you can break. So don't worry that you've been stuck with that and that it's never going to go. As things balance out, as you find tools and techniques to kind of manage this period, you can use CBT for insomnia to get your sleep back on track. So it's not forever. And it is about being kind to yourself and making some of these simple changes, but kind of not listening too much to the noise, because I feel like women particularly are,
very vulnerable to it,
very vulnerable,
being targeted,
and having to buy this and there's another hack here and a gimmick, and sleep. We don't need all that to sleep. To sleep well, there's a lot of stuff you can do for free without spending any more money on it.
And so success to you when you're working with a midlifer, success to you is basically that someone's not worried about their sleep. So maybe they sleep 5-6 hours a night, maybe they sleep 10 hours a night, but they're just not worried about it.
Yeah, so for me, good quality sleep would be, do you fall asleep pretty easily? If you wake in the night to use the toilet, which is normal, can you get back to sleep most of the time? During the day, can you stay awake? And are you pretty relaxed around sleep? For me, that's good quality sleep. We don't need to know much more about it than that. And of course, if you can get a bit more and it stays a good quality and you can prioritize it, then do.
Right.
But if you're in a period of your life where actually you're just very busy and you can't, of course, ideally, we wouldn't allow that to happen. But it is our reality at the moment that life can be quite busy. So quality over quantity, and try to take the pressure off. You can cope with more than you think. So a lot of it is more the anxiety work than the sleep.
I think that's really a great place to end. Thank you so much, Kathryn. It's very inspiring. I'm going to chill out a little bit, and I hope that all of our listeners can do as well. Please join us next time on The Night Shift, where we'll have some more great sleep tips. This episode was brought to you by Estée Lauder's Advanced Night Repair. Wind down with a free Beauty Sleep Glow Facial at your nearest Estée Lauder counter. Book online or in store.